Well, hello there and welcome back to the channel. It's Sketch Monkey here, and today we are going to have a look at the Hyundai VELOSTER from 2009, this year actually, 2019. They updated the VELOSTER from 2017. It came out, I think this was the first model that actually came out ever of the VELOSTER, and I just want to show you quickly the changes that they made from 2017 to this year. What kind of happened and what we are going to focus on in this redesign. So you can see here, this is the 2017 and this is the 2019 right here. And it's a very bubbly and funky looking car. I like it because it's so different. It's not the most beautiful looking car. At the same time, it's unique. It's something that when you see it on the roads, you kind of stop and have to look twice because it's such a weird looking design. But for a hatchback, it looks alright. It looks decent. And the 2017 model was very, it had a lot of roundness to it, as you can especially see in the fenders right here. And the back, the whole proportions of the car, very round like this. We have a line that pretty much follows one single, we have a silhouette that follows one single line like that all the way down here. And what they changed to the 2019 model down here is pretty much they took the same proportions of the car. Of course, they want to keep the proportions of the hatchback. They took similar design features of the 2017 model, and they just sharpened everything up. Now, the thing with Asian car design is that they often tend to do a lot of styling features just for the sake of it being styling. So it doesn't have a lot of function to it. They just like to add a lot of creases, a lot of curvatures and stuff like that. And you can especially see that on the 2019 model with these fender lines that goes like this. It doesn't have any function, but at the same time it makes the VELOSTER pretty unique. And I think it's cool that they do that. It's pretty much the opposite from what the Germans do. The Germans, especially Volkswagen, they need to have a, whenever they design something, a feature on the car, it has to have a function. It needs to be functional. Hyundai is kind of the opposite of that spectrum. They just like to go crazy and do some fun stuff with their design. One interesting thing is I've got a lot of messages about the Mazda 3 hatchback, the new one. And people say that they don't like the C-pillar of it, and they don't like the design in general. But whenever I see that car out on the road, I think it's one of the best looking hatchback I've ever seen. I love the clean style of it, and the sheet, it looks like the sheet metal or the panels of the car are so clean, it almost looks fluid. I don't know what it is with the Mazda 3, but I just love the design. And I think it's a great looking car. But that's not what we're focusing on today. Today it's all about the VELOSTER. So this is kind of the quick rundown of the 2017 and 2019 changes. They tightened everything up for the 2019 and obviously changed a lot in the rear view, on the rear side of the car right here, by moving the headlights so that they follow this line right here. So it almost creeps up on the roof to this point with the rear lights. So that's one part I want to focus on. And another thing that's interesting here in the side view is that if I zoom in on the front here, I can't really tell if this is a VELOSTER or if it's a Subaru or if it's a Ford Focus. It's really hard to tell. The only thing that kind of distinguishes this car from those cars is this styling line on the fender here. So if I've looked at this car from a side view and studied it for a while, the only thing that would give it away as being a VELOSTER would be this crease that they have going right there in the fender. The rest of the styling is pretty generic. So let's have a look at the front view just for fun here and let's see what's going on. So when I look at this, there's a lot of both. Obviously, you can see that there's a lot of Ford Focus, and that has to do with this grille here that goes like this. It's very Focus looking. It could also be a Kia if we just change the grille a little bit. One thing that catches my eye the moment I saw the front view is this little tiny detail here. It's this fender here that goes right here. So the thing is, this is one thing that I would change immediately if we were doing a front redesign. And the reason for that is it's all about confidence when it comes to design features. And this little detail here, it doesn't have a lot of confidence. So what exactly do you mean by confidence in design features? Well, let me explain. This is one of these design features that you're not sure if they actually meant to put it there or if it's an afterthought to just add a fender there and maybe nobody will notice this little angle that goes right there. So what I would do to give it more confidence in the front is to either remove this and just have the grill continue here and remove this part of the fender, or another alternative, if you want to keep the fenders like this, make them stand out more, like stretch them all the way here, so that we know that it is actually part of the design and not something in between. Like, should it be there or should it not be there? I can't tell because it's such a tiny little detail, but it's right there in the middle of the grill, so it's still visible, and it still makes me wonder if they actually meant to put the fender there or if it's just an afterthought. So either remove it or make it bigger. Other than that, I mean, it's a normal looking hatchback. Not too much to say about the front view here. Pretty generic. But when we go to the rear view, this is where things go crazy. There's a lot going on here, and the thing with Asian type car design, Asian styling car design, is that, as I said before, they like to stylize parts of the car, and sometimes it gets a little bit messy. You can see that here. For example, we have this chamfer under the rear lights that follows this line, but then it just dips into the light here. I would rather have it go something like this and just be a chamfer all around and not have it stop at this point there. Another thing is you have all these lines that don't really go anywhere, and that's not a big deal because of the culture of car design in Asia. They do a lot of that stuff, but we have this line right here, it follows here, it doesn't go anywhere. We have this line right there as well, it doesn't really go anywhere. And the thing with the thing I like about the thing that really gets me going with a good car design is that you gotta have at least one line that you can follow. So if you have a line at the if you spot a line at the corner of the car, for example, I want that line to connect somewhere else on the side of the car, in the front of the car, so you can follow one single line across the car. So for example, we might take this line right here, and we might have this line connect with this line so that it goes like this. And then we might have this line connect with this part down there. And then we might have this line go into the front bumper and connect with some sort of chamfer in the front or something like this. Because then we have this continuous line that I'm talking about. We have the line in the back, goes right here, and it connects to this line, and then it goes here, and then it connects to the front. So that would be one of these key lines that I'm talking about that I would love to see in every single car design. The rest, you can go crazy, you can style it as much as you want, but just have one thing that connects everything together. Another part that we can do that is by connecting this line right here. You see there is a line that just disappears here. And what I want to do with this particular line is to connect the two major volumes that we have on the Veloster. So to me, when I look at this car, there are two big volumes that builds up this car. So the first volume is the top volume right here, this part. The second volume is the bottom part right here. So we have two volumes, and the connection between these two volumes isn't the smoothest connection because you have the rear lights on top of the first volume, and I want to have this transition between these two, I want that to be smoother. So what I want to do is have some line going from the lower volume to the top volume and kind of integrates the two. That way it doesn't look like it's a base and then you have the greenhouse just sitting on top of the base as a separate mass or volume. I want to connect those two with maybe one or two lines and maybe integrate the rear lights into both of the volumes instead of just having it on the top right here. Hopefully that made sense. We're gonna go in now and get to work and see if we can make this happen. So let's do that and let's see how this is going to turn out. I want to show you what the biggest challenge is when you're sketching hatchbacks. It's different from sketching even wagons or sedans or coupes are very easy to make beautiful. But when you have a hatchback, you can have long sweeping lines from the hood and on the shoulder line. But in the end, in the rear, they kind of have to bundle together in the best way possible. And that's not always easy to do because of the instant stop of the body of the car. So that is always a challenge when you're sketching hatchbacks. And that's kind of what I wanted to explore with pen and paper before jumping into digital and doing the redesign in Photoshop. So I'm just using a big pen here and print paper, pretty much the most basic tools that you can use. I'm going to throw I think I'm just using one marker for this sketch. It's a Cool Gray 3 to just get some shading later on. And I also want to talk about the DMs that I get about sketching and how to learn how to sketch and what should you do, what you think about when you're starting out with anything that you want to learn. The first thing you need to realize is that it's gonna sound bad, but it's probably going to look like crap or not that good for a very, very, very long time. I went through the same deal when I started sketching. It didn't look good, but as long as you're having fun with it, and as long as you know that it's something that you really want to improve, you really don't care about that because you're having so much fun that you don't care about it being perfect. So my advice is always just pick up a pen and whatever paper you have around, put down some lines and just have fun with it. And slowly but surely, you're going to realize that if you sketch let's say you sketch every day a tiny doodle for a year or so, and you keep all your sketches, and then you look back on day one when you're on day 365, and if you compare the two sketches, you're going to see a massive difference. And that is the point when you know that the only way to get better is to put in time, and it's also going to motivate you because you can actually see the progress from day one and how far you've come after a year. So don't be discouraged if you don't like your sketches at the moment, or if you're trying to do anything else. It can be whatever you're trying to learn. It can be sketching, fitness, health, or whatever. If you don't see the results right now, just keep pushing at it and compare with at least a year between you checking in on your progress. If you're comparing week to week, you're not going to see that much of a difference, and that's might not be the most motivating thing for you to do. So just keep at it, keep doing it daily, and check back after a year. So here we are then in Photoshop as usual. First things first, we want to focus on connecting the two volumes that I talked about earlier in this video. The greenhouse, I want to connect that in a better way to the bottom part of the car. And we do that by extending this line that you see here that goes up from the bumper. I want to extend that and have that almost be a part of the C-pillar. And to make the headlights look like they're integrated in the car more smoothly, I would say, I want to extend the width of the headlight to the other side of this line as well. Because if I have it stop right where the line goes, so if I have the line being a cut line for the headlight, it's just not going to look good. It's going to look like the rear lights are kind of an afterthought of the car, and that it doesn't really fit the overall design of the car. And then once we have that one done, all we got to do is copy paste it, flip it around, and fix it in perspective, and boom, we have the far side rear light as well. Of course, I want to add some chamfers to this because that's the way modern cars today are built. They have a bunch of chamfers, and it started in the mid 2000s with this chamfer madness, and I really like it. I think it makes a big difference on details like this, such as having a chamfer underneath and around the rear lights, for example. The second big thing that I wanted to do is to create this, the key line, the key flowing line that I talk about in pretty much every single redesign, and that is this line that goes above the rear fender and then stretches down by the doors. And then if we saw this from the front view, it would have some sort of side splitter or something that was a continuation of this line. And that means that we have our key line that wraps around the car from the rear all the way to the front. Doing this air outlet or graphics in the back, it was just a thought that I wasn't really thinking about doing this to start with, but then when I thought about the target audience more, I wanted to implement that and have that be part of the rear design. It gives it a little bit more aggressive look, and I think it looks good. It kind of connects the two sides of the car, and it also adds to the width of the car. It is not a big car, so anything we can do to help it look, to make it look wider than it is a good thing. And we can do that easily by just adding a line that stretches from one side to the other. I wasn't really happy with the design of this air outlet in the back, so I'm gonna go back and fix that to make it have a bit more of an organic shape like this right here. That's what I'm doing right here. And I think that just fits the overall design of the Veloster, because it is a very organic design. It's not a static design at all. It's no German brand would ever put out a design like this, and that's what make the Asian car design styling so special, because it's such a unique way of sketching cars and designing cars. So that's part of the little dip that I added on those air outlets. Alrighty, that's the redesign of the Hyundai, I don't know, the the Veloster. I want to show you quickly what we did and obviously why we did those things. So the kind of brief that I told myself was to integrate the two volumes that we talked about in the beginning of the video, integrate those better, and kind of have a better flow to it. I don't want to mess with the proportions. I want to keep the proportions because they're so unique for the Veloster that it's not something that I want to get rid of. Instead, I kind of want to emphasize it even more. But what we did mainly was to create this line right here. Bam! So compared to the first one, it has a line that goes here, but it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't follow any other line that you have on the car. But with this line, it actually starts down here with this line here. So these two are now connected with this line down there, and that means that we have a path from the first volume that sticks down into the lower volume of the car, if that makes sense. Another thing that I wanted to do was to, of course, create the one line that you can follow all around the car. So if you find this line somewhere on the car, you can just follow it with your eye and walk around the car, and you still see the same line connecting the whole car. So that kind of ties everything together. And that line is on the original one. You have this. It was these lines right here. So this is line number 1. This is line number 2. This is line number 3. So I wanted to connect these 3 lines, and obviously this will go into the wrap around and go into the front bumper and have some sort of side splitter or something there to connect it with the front as well. But that's one thing that was a big deal for me when I did the redesign, is to have this continuous line here. So now you can see that it goes down here, down to this chamfer edge right here, and then it will connect in the front right there. Obviously, did some graphical changes, not too much. I kind of like these headlights here, but I just, for fun, for practice, I just wanted to change it up just a little bit to have some fun with it. And that's what you can see right here. Did some new styling of the rear light. And this line has to go through this rear light, so we have to have some shading on this part right here because it's facing more towards the side than this part right there. And of course, add this angry looking air outlet, or just sporty graphic, because I think the if you think about the target audience for this car, they kind of like they're more of a Honda Civic Type R type of target audience, and things like this just adds some sportiness to it without having it being too much of some graphic craziness going on. So I wanted to add this part right here. And that's about it for this redesign. I really hope you enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed making it. I'm the Sketch Monkey. If you liked the video, you know what to do. Hit the like button. I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.